Broads Media.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome on into Sports Talk with Broads. My mind is still on the Flyers right now. It's hard for me to stop thinking about the mess that they have created, but now it's about where do they go from here? And Danny Briere, the interim GM, spoke for the first time to the media this most recent weekend that just passed, and I was very intrigued to listen to the way that he sounded, the way that he answered certain questions. What was his body language like? What was the tone in his voice? And basically, it sounds like a guy who's in charge. He has the interim tag, but a lot of people around the hockey world are claiming that he's going to be the guy that lands the spot when it's all said and done. So that interim tag will be yanked off of him. It seems like a guy who's saying, listen to me. Where we are sucks. Where we are is unacceptable. This is going to take a bit of time, but hear me out. I'm going to do everything in my power to get this thing on the right track. We need to shift gears from what we always did. We always tried to stay competitive. That was Ed Snyder's MO. That's what he wanted to do. Put out a product that could always compete. The problem is, it got you into some trouble, and then there were plenty of times where we were too good to get anyone good in the draft, and then we were not good enough to get to the postseason, and if we did, we weren't going very far. It kept you in that spot of you don't want to be here and you are really uncomfortable. You have to either commit to stripping it down or get way better somehow. Right? Get lucky in the draft and you hit on Connor McDavid in the middle of the first round, and then you can apply that to the greatness. But you were constantly trying to find the goalie. You were always trying to plug and play, and it really did bite you in the ass. Danny Briere speaking is selling me something that I could 1,000% jump on board with. Now, he said that it wasn't going to be a fire sale, and I'm okay with that. To me, there's some players here that I'm unwilling to part ways with. Doesn't mean that I wouldn't if the right package was there. But to say we're not going to get rid of Joel Farabee doesn't bother me. To say that Noah Cates is someone that we really love here, we think he's got a special two-way game, that young, learning all the little things, the way that he's blossomed. I mean, it's pretty ridiculous to think about what he can do. It's not always like, wow, Noah Cates. It might just be winning a puck battle along the wall. It might just be good positioning in the D zone, a good stick on puck down low behind the goal line, right? I mean, it's just those little things that he does so well. But if you told me Danny B didn't want to move on from him, I'm okay with that. Cam York, you want to give him some more time because we know that defensemen take more time to grow and develop in this league. Okay. That doesn't need to bother you, though. Because there's a lot of players here that you can still absolutely 1,000% trade and it still have a huge impact on your franchise. Maybe Travis Konechny's someone you think that you can get value for. Kevin Hayes, I think, is eventually going to be gone. There's a lot of buzz surrounding the Columbus opportunity, maybe to make something happen there. But, not Konechny, I already said him. Ivan Provorov. There's maybe 4 or 5 that I would like to keep. I like Owen Tippett. I think he's playing with a ton of confidence right now. I think Tortorella has really shown a lot of faith into him, and he's playing way different than he did in Florida when he was drafted. Once again, I'm not saying I'd cry if any of these players that I said I would like to keep end up getting traded if the package is right. But I'm just saying, like, it's not everyone and their mother. If there's a few guys that are super young that you're willing to kind of continue to put the sweater on and to see if the timelines match up with Cutter Gauthier eventually getting here. His season ended against Merrimack in the Hockey East tournament. And Cutter Gauthier hit the post in overtime with just about a couple seconds to go. It was under a minute left. It was unreal. They ended up falling in double overtime. It sucks. I was thoroughly enjoying watching them play over the season. ESPN Plus had a lot of the Boston College games. But, you continue to draft, and then some of these players eventually get here, and then by then Noah Cates has 3-4 years under his belt, and he's still under 30. Like, there's so much here that I can work with from that angle, I'm saying. Not so much. That's probably the wrong word to use. But there's a handful of guys that I think fits the mold. The most interesting thing was Elliot Friedman on 32 Thoughts saying that Carter Hart is available. Maybe that upsets fans. Maybe it doesn't. Everything's on the table right now for me. I don't prefer doing it, but if there's something that I feel can speed up the process, it is what it is. Yes, Carter Hart technically can fit exactly what I just mentioned, which is a player that 3-4 years down the road, he's 27. He's 28. He's still in his prime. And now there's way more talent surrounding him. No doubt. So that's why, if you stay with him, that's cool. But if someone wows you and someone goes, yeah, we'll pay a lot, we'll be willing to give you a lot of assets, I feel I have to take that phone call. And for Elliot Friedman to say that on the show, someone tells me that someone told him to say that. Here's a little birdie in Philadelphia who's chirping, chirping, chirping. Maybe it's the Flyers, because maybe that sparks some interest. I don't know, just a thought. But when I heard the Carter Hart one, my eyebrows raised a little bit. I believe in Danny Briere. I think he's worked his way to this position. I think he's got a great understanding of today's game. And I thought it was extremely important to hear. And once again, I'm going to reference the 32 Thoughts pod because there was a lot to it. And they're really in the thick of it, those two right now. Opening up their show, 25 minutes or so of strictly Flyers, what's going on with them right now. So it's fascinating to get their sense on it because, well, you know, they're very well connected and there's a lot of people telling them things. They said it was so bad with Chuck Fletcher that there were people who were texting others, like people who work for the Flyers, who work in the front office, and they were texting other people around the league saying, hey, just so you know, I didn't want to do this. Just so you know, this wasn't my decision. That's how badly everyone was on different pages. That's how badly they weren't pulling together as one. They're like, yo, do not put my name on this. When you see this acquisition or when you see this deal, when you see this signing, just know I had nothing to do with it and I voted absolutely not. And apparently, the media knew before Chuck Fletcher even knew that he wasn't going to be with the Flyers anymore. It's a cold world out there, man. Now, I'm sure he had to expect it at some point. In one of his most recent press conferences, Chuck did say that, hey, whatever Dave Scott elects to do with my job is out of my control. Well, once your mindset is already there, you basically know that, okay, it's coming at some point. I just don't know the time and date. Well, I guess it happened quicker than he anticipated. But that's what happens when you use an app on your phone to try and judge what the market is for JVR. And the fact that he publicly actually admitted that to people. He said that out loud to people who are buying his product. Season ticket holders who spend their hard-earned cash to go to the Wells Fargo Center. He stared at everyone and said, we have an app that tells people what the market is, if it's a good trade, if it's not a good trade. Dude, where's your brain? Where's your brain? It's absolutely nuts. But apparently, the Flyers are looking to build something similar to what's happening in Boston, what's happening with Colorado, with Sweeney, with Joe Sakic, looking at their president of hockey operations. And they want something similar with Danny Briere and somebody else. Now, a few names were mentioned. Ray Whitney, Shane Doan, and Robert Esch, who is currently the president for the Utica Comets in the AHL. I don't know why it irks me, but I won't lie. Knowing that Robert Esch was once a Flyer, and it's like, oh, here we go again, right? Even though Danny Briere obviously checks that same box, it's like, why everyone? Why everyone? And I know this is coming, so I'll just get out in front of it. Chuck Fletcher technically is not. And he's probably the worst this organization ever has. Yeah? Well, think about how many fantastic, outstanding A-plus general managers and president of hockey operations people are out there that never once had a tie to the Flyers. There's billions of them. You just unfortunately grabbed one that wasn't. I don't know if I can make the argument that there's billions of A-plus GMs and president of hockey operation people who once was associated with the Flyers. There's more that weren't that were. So if I'm going to play my odds here, you know. But that's not to say Robert Esch wouldn't deserve it or wouldn't be good at it. He's someone who has put in the time. He is a president of hockey ops right now in the minor league, so there's something to be said about experience and taking the proper steps. But I like these names. These names all sound good to me. Shane Doan, hell of a career, is more recent with the now. You gotta get more recent with the now. Which brings up a phenomenal question. Something that I've questioned in the past, but I'm more willing to change my ways. Is John Tortorella the right coach to get behind Danny Briere and this model? Apparently they had a long-ass meeting on Friday, going over the roster, going over some of these players, and discussing what they think about a lot of them. It's a good start. If I could go back in time and see the future and see that they were eventually going to do this, I probably wouldn't hire John Tortorella. Now, with that said, he's here and he's not going anywhere. Can he be the one to help produce a winning product? I believe so, yes. Wouldn't be my first option, but he's been around the game a long time. He's going to teach a lot of these young kids because it's going to be a growing process and there's going to be a lot of pain. And he's let us know from the rip. Like, he's been saying this before the franchise has admitted to it. He's been saying this before Chuck Fletcher has said anything about it. He's been the one going, we're not good enough. We are clearly lacking a bunch of talent. We are clearly missing premier guys. We are banged up. We just don't have it. Like, our top guys, who are probably second-line guys, who are our number one guys, but it really on a good NHL team are nowhere even close to a number one line. But those guys aren't even here. And then the rest is filled with youth or some players that shouldn't even be in the league right now. Our power play stinks. We're just not good enough. John Tortorella, if we look at the next 2 to 3 years of young players on prospects, he's going to teach them what it takes to compete in this league on a night-to-night basis. He's going to teach them how to be a professional, hit the road, go on a road trip, a West Coast swing, how to keep your body in check, all that stuff. Like, there's a professionalism outside of the game, and then, of course, what it takes to compete, too. Like, you got to give it everything to be successful. You think the Boston Bruins, with that locker room and that culture, now Patrice Bergeron is their version of Torts. He's the one that's putting on the pressure for everyone, going, this is how hard you're going to have to work. Do you see my play? Watch my tape. When we do film, see what I do. Look at how I work in the corners. Look at how I win my battles. He's their version. Now, they're good enough and talented enough and have the experience where they don't need to lean on the guy behind the bench to do it. It's their leader. It's their captain. And before him, it was Chara. That's how when some of these guys, Connor Clifton, when Charlie McAvoy was first getting into the league, all these young players that have now gotten a few more years and have been playing with Boston for a little bit more time, that's what they were able to watch consistently. Well, Tortorella will be doing that for the Flyers. And I think he can do that at a high level. And I think he can teach these kids a ton. So I actually think it's possible. Would it be my first choice? But now that we are in this position, I don't think it's fully a disaster. He might throw some guys under the bus. He might be tough on some players. He was super tough on Cam York. Cam York, I thought, cracked early on, especially during training camp, got sent down, came back up, and has been a nice player since. There's some things that I enjoy out of his game. There's some things I don't enjoy out of his game. There's still a lot to go. But I think compared to where he was at camp and where he is now, there's definitely been some improvement. He'll be harsh. He'll be intense. He might throw you under the bus, but then there's that time where the media and some fans get on the team, and then he has their backs. How many times have we seen that? He'll rip Hayes. He'll rip Konechny. He'll rip Farabee. And then something happens a few games later, a week or two later, and then the fans or the media ask questions about Hayes. They go, oh, Hayes has been giving me everything recently. Or, hey, Travis Konechny has been doing what I asked him to do. Or Joel Farabee, this and that. He'll have their backs. So that's just the way he goes. He'll play the mental toughness game. He'll battle with you. But if you respond and you answer him on the ice, he gives you that respect, and he'll give you that ice time, and he'll play you more. So I'm more willing to kind of see where this goes, and I'm kind of weirdly not excited. I'm not excited we're here. But I think it's more of a sigh of relief that, all right, I know we're at least headed into a rebuild with structure. Every single offseason, we had no clue what Chuck Fletcher was doing. And we don't know how he was using his draft picks because there was no sort of plan. Throwing them away for a contract to be taken, throwing them away for the rights to Tony D, going to get Rasmus, and then doubling down on the contract. And I wonder if that's when people around the league were texting with the Rasmus deal. That fits the Flyers hockey. It was a curse what happened when this team was good, because there's some sort of description on what Flyers hockey needs to be. Well, he's a big body, and in theory, maybe he could throw the body around. He could be tough to play against and all that. Oh, come on. The Laurier, Flyers hockey. And when you watch a game nationally, if it's an ESPN Plus game, if it's a Hulu game, if it's a TNT game, it's always about the brand. The Flyers have lost their identity. You got to get back to the brand. No, you don't. What you need to do is create a whole new one. And I think this is the first step of doing that, because the Flyers traditionally have not been the team to kind of blow it up and tank. Mr. Snyder always wanted to be involved, always wanted to put people in the seats and give them a chance to win, which is fine until you realize it's not. And when Chuck Fletcher got hired back in 2018, the fact that we're sitting here in 2023 and this is what we're looking at, it's a nightmare. It's an absolute nightmare. I was asked today, when's the next time this team is going to have a star? My answer was 2026. I think it takes until 2026 to have a must-see. I need to go to the barn. I have to go buy tickets. I have to go to the Wells Fargo Center to see him play, whoever that is. 2026. Maybe it's Cutter Gauthier. I would like for him to take a next step in his career, but I don't know if he's going back to Boston College or what the case may be. He's by far the best player on the ice when I watch him play. By far. In the playoffs, he's a freshman. He's all over the ice. He's working down low. He's moving. His shot is ridiculous. Speaking of some prospects, Forster, first game I liked what I saw. Second game, not as much. He just played tonight against Vegas as I'm recording this. Had a nice shot on net there. He looks like a younger player. Game one, I thought he looked like he fit in, but as the next couple of games played out, he kind of looks like a younger player to me. Which is fine, that's what he is, and he's super young. But he looks like a younger player to me. I just wish someone could be like, whoa, who could just step in and right from the jump, they're a stud. They're just a stud. They're unbelievable. Could it be Cutter Gauthier? Maybe. I don't want to set the bar too high for people. But I don't know. It's like I'm excited, but I'm also deflated. And when you kind of think about it, and the roster, and how far they have to go, get rid of all these veterans, I'd see what Cam Atkinson can get you. I'd see what Kevin Hayes can get you. I would let's look at some of these guys. I mean, Rasmus Ristolainen if you could, but you know that he can't. Oh, speaking of this game against Vegas, Nick Seeler. Oh my Lord, did he seriously score the goal of the year? What a world we're living in. You have to retire the second that you get danced that badly. I would try and shop. I would even see what Morgan Frost can get you, but do you get the bang for your buck, the most bang for your buck if you do that, knowing where you drafted him? He doesn't stink. He's definitely taken a nice jump this season. This is the best we've seen Morgan Frost play, and he scored against Vegas as well. So I don't know if you'll get your return, thinking of your investment for Morgan Frost. I could do without him, though. I don't think he ever becomes what we were promised. But could he fill a role? Yes. But I think you already have so many players that can fill that same role he fills, kind of thing. Sanheim. The only defenseman that I'm willing to continue to watch is Cam York. That's it. Cam York. All right. Text messages, sure. There's always some Flyers text coming in. Joey from Harrisburg. Who would you hire as president of hockey ops, and what would your first move be if you were Danny Briere? I like some of these names that were mentioned earlier. Ray Whitney, Shane Doan, Robert Esch. I don't have someone where it's like, yes, I definitely want this person. Just give me someone who makes sense. Someone with the background, someone with some good hockey knowledge, someone who's been around the game for a long time, someone who's worked around the league or has been progressing and showing signs that they have been improving in a front office role. Just give me someone that makes logical sense. And I can support it. It seems like they're aware that that has to happen. So as long as they execute it, then fine, I'll give that person a fair shot. Just like I'm giving Danny a fair shot. I think there's enough there. There's enough substance. There's enough juice to recognize that he deserves this chance to make something happen. He hasn't been sitting on his ass and just relying on his NHL career, and that's about it. He put in the work. He grinded. There's so much respect for what he has done to be in this spot. Going down to the coast, working around those players. Proving that I can blossom. So just give me someone like that. What would my first move be? I'd try and shop Ivan Provorov. I think that makes a statement. I really do. See, if you get rid of Kevin Hayes, not that I would be angry if you find a way to move that contract, that's a no-brainer. That's an obvious. To me, moving Ivan Provorov is an obvious too, but there's something to, at one point he wore a letter, at one point you were sold that this guy's the number one defenseman for your franchise. He's nowhere even close to that. How come every time someone left him, he had a problem? Why can't you be the player to make other players better? Why can't you be Matt Niskanen? Why can't you be the 3 or 4 or 5 games of Ryan Ellis? Why does someone always have to be next to you? Because you're not good enough to be the number one. I'd get rid of him. And I think that sends a message to everyone. We're not playing games. Nobody's safe. I love it. That's my number one move. That's how I would start things off. Bruce texts in, what players have you enjoyed watching most under John Tortorella? Believe it or not, Noah Cates. And it's bizarre because he doesn't dipsy doodle around, toe drag, backhand, cheese, sniping goals. But he just plays the game the right way. And I think his ceiling's pretty high. I really do. You need those type of players. Now, when Sean Couturier was healthy, he was a guy that you could rely on to match against better opponents and look at the first line of the opposing team and say, hey, we're putting our best line and our best defensive forwards against their players and try and shut them down. I think Noah Cates can do that. I really do. He's so smart. He plays the game with such high IQ. He always knows where to be. He's always supporting the puck. He's always supporting his teammates, saying he's in the right areas if he's the third guy high. And he can make plays, too. It's not as if he has no skill. He has skill, too. But when you're always in the right spots, it makes it that much easier. If a defenseman's going D to D and needs to find their centerman swinging, or the support is there in the defensive zone so you can start a nice breakout. Well, if the center's too high, or the center's cheating, or the winger's too high, and the center's in the right spot, though, so you can utilize him instead of using the half wall because he's there. Now you use the glass, you're out. You get a forecheck going through the neutral zone, or you get the puck deep, you get in hard, F1, you beat the defenseman, you take the body, you separate body from puck, which then the puck is now in the corner, but there's no one there. Your forward can go pick it up. You go up high, you walk the blue line, you take a shot on net, it gets deflected. Now it's a tie game 1-1. Noah Cates, Owen Tippett. Guys who I didn't have high expectations for, who clearly exceeded them. Noah Cates and Owen Tippett are my two. I wish I could speak today, by the way. I am struggling. I guess we'll wrap things up here with the final text that I'll read. Hey, Broads, I'm kind of an outsider looking in when watching hockey. I only watch when they're good, so it's been rough for me lately. How do you currently feel about Danny Briere in charge? Is this another Flyers hire, or is there really something to Danny Briere? I believe there's something to Danny Briere. I do. I believe he knows talent. I believe he understands talent. And I believe he realizes what needs to be done and the shaking up that must occur for the Flyers to get good again, to get relevant again. But we'll see what they do. Thank everybody so much. Thanks, everybody so much. Not thank. It's been a long damn day. Thank you all so much. Catch you on the next one.